going to give up because they can't afford to get a good job or own a house.
8 million Venezuelans voting for this assembly, saying it's actually less than 3.
It is. And people are going to start rioting in the streets.
Was reported to have asked Putin for military support that would help him stay in power.
We will make America safe again. And yes, together, we will make America great again.
And they ignore him. And 8 more years goes by till Bernie himself finally admits to his sons, hey, I've been running a Ponzi scheme.
Does its dominance mean it can use the alliance for its own ends?
Since 1981, bond yields, also known as coupon rates, have just gone down and down and down.
Federal Reserve note will be your biggest financial liability.
RTD Live Talk, Monday night, the 16th day of the month of July. We are live streaming. My name is Mike, the host of RTD Live Talk, where my goal is to give you, the viewer, a voice and a way to share what's on your mind and what's happening in your personal economy, as well as in your local economy. So, other than that, as always, we're going to get started. The clock is ticking. 29 minutes of just open conversation on whatever's happening in this monetary system. Got a couple topics I definitely want to touch in regards to the mainstream news, which is Trump and Putin having their summit or whatnot. And some of the mainstream narrative that came from that was that it was very, I heard the words treason and all types of things in regards to it not living up to what the establishment / the extreme left would like to publicize in regards to Trump and Putin seeming to kind of gel and mesh together, as opposed to Trump continuing to keep that whole "they're our enemy" type of narrative alive. So looking forward to finding out what's in your world and what's happening. So as always, the number's above me, 833 live RTD. Call in, let me know what's going on. And before we get into an in-depth conversation, want to find out who's tuning in for the first time, any new viewers. And so the chat room is open. Let me know where you're tuning in from. And also, if you want to begin asking some questions, feel free to do so. Always looking to find out what's going on. So as we check in, we got Scott, we got Death by Death, we got John. So what's going on, man? How you guys are doing? How was your weekend and whatnot? On my part, I go a couple days. I think my last live stream was last week. And so this week, I'll have probably 1 or 2 guests joining me this evening. On Wednesday, I'm going to have a gentleman in regards to cryptos tuning in and chiming in and sharing his thoughts. And he's in the crypto space and very knowledgeable as far as a technical analysis standpoint. So I'm looking forward to finding out what some of the things he has going on. It says death by debt. We're talking about inflation, cost of living, and the welfare failure state is on my mind. And, very good point there. And it's on my mind as well. Let me pull up a very good article that I came across earlier that actually broke down break down some of the statistics and the numbers in regards to what that's looking like. And it has to do with over 100 trillion of financial obligations. And so there's an article that I'm looking at right now that was listed on Forbes.com as of last week, and it talks about just some of the how we've arrived at this mess at all-time high in global debt, combined corporate, corporate, public, you name it. Just debt is continuing to pile up. And so I've done videos in the past in regards to how I think it was at the earlier part of this year, debt was at all-time high of 220 something trillion. Now we're at 250 trillion and climbing. And so I think it was about close to 25 or so, 25 trillion, if I'm not mistaken, was added in just the last quarter and a half, give or take. And so it's just amazing at how the debt continues to pile up with no talk or no discussion on how to even cut into the interest payments on that debt for all those all those liabilities, whether it be student loans, credit card, national debt. Then we have all the retirement type of debt. So you factor all that stuff in, they're not even talking about how to even live up to those obligations. All we're talking about is just the fact that it continues to pile up. That's very dangerous. But that's just the system we living in. So don't really expect much from it other than just a day of reckoning. and a day of reckoning. And this article is very interesting because it talks about how Rome came to an end and how Caesar, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, how he basically, in order to pay off his debts, basically just made a, he called in, made it a government order to call in all the denarius coins, the denarii, I believe, denarii coins. He made it a complete kingdom-wide mandate that all the coins come back into his possession. And from there, he just basically defaulted on those by basically diluting and splitting the coins in half, in a sense, to basically be able to return back the money that was given back, and then also be able to pay off his debts on top of that. So basically expanding the monetary base, which basically wiped out everyone's purchasing power and everything of that nature. So yeah, it's not the first time we've reached this point of complete or debt is unsustainable, and then the end result is always you just default because you can't pay it back. So I'm not expecting anything otherwise than that. Problem is, a lot of people out here have spent their entire lives in this system, in this structure, and actually expect to receive something on the other end. And that's going to be the dangerous part. It says, what we got here? Inflation, cost of living. What's your thoughts on the yield curve? Ace One, how you doing, my friend? So yeah, on the yield curve, I've commented on it in the past live streams, and basically it's well known based upon data and just a trend over the last 40, 50 years, that every time we approach that inversion of the 2 and 10, as well as the 10 and the 30 treasury bond yields basically getting close to each other, or one outdoing the other, the end result of that is a recession. So we're near that territory now, and so I don't really think we need the yield curve to actually invert to be an indicator that we're in a recession, because you look at all the other indicators outside of that, of which there's, hell, I did one about employment. Then when the employment numbers reach all-time lows and then they begin to trend back up, that's an indicator. And what else? There's a couple others out there that lets me know that right now we are already in that territory where I would be willing to say technically we're in a recession, but yet, as always, because it takes 2 quarters or so of the GDP to be reevaluated and reassessed down negatively in comparison to what it's assessed at initially, to actually be officially labeled by that bureau to make it an official recession. But yet we don't need them to actually, in my opinion, we don't need them to tell us that, you know, everything is crumbling at the seams. So just a matter of time before it becomes mainstream. So I believe right now we're probably already lined up and ready to go for some type of correction with all the financial assets and things of that nature. So that's what's going on. So we got Vanessa from NYC. Welcome to the channel. What's happening in NYC, other than the fact that, you know, I was out there a couple months ago and it was extremely expensive. I happened to be down in Lower Manhattan, staying down near the Madison Square Garden. Went to go check out a game, and I was just, man, the cost of existing in NYC was, whew, it was very expensive. I was, yeah, shocked, because it's been a while since I've been to NYC, but I'm glad I don't live on the East Coast or the West Coast. I like, you know, staying in the Midwest area for the most part, where it's not as expensive. It says work 3 12s over the weekend, recharging my battery. Yeah, man, you need to recharge. So definitely glad you can tune in though, my friend. It says LP from Toronto. LP, how you doing, my friend? Welcome. What's happening up in Toronto? So the goal is, as always, for those that are new that's chiming in or checking in with us, the goal is to basically provide you an opportunity to share what's on your mind. So I love when people call in and get involved, and so as you see the subtitles, a voice for the people. So definitely want to find out what's on your mind in regards to this economy, and as well as political issues, because a lot of us, each and every one of us, have a unique angle or position, and just it's my goal is to basically provide you an opportunity to share that with those that are tuned in. So feel free to call in if something comes across your mind. Says D at work listening. Appreciate you tuning in, D. Scott Robinson, I see how Lee Wanta wants to pay off the U.S. debts. So Scott said Lee Wanta. I'm not familiar with that one. Ambassador Lee Wanta. Okay. So I wasn't aware of that. Let me see. It says, please take a moment to understand that this is going on. So Lee Wanta, Ambassador Lee Wanta, wants to pay off the debt. Yeah, paying off the debt would not be a bad thing. The problem is, where do we get the proceeds to do that? That is going to be the big dilemma, because apart from what's happening all around us, typically in order to cut back, we have to cut back on expenditures and cut back on all the things that have proven to be non-productive for society before we can begin doing anything as far as paying back. But we have a caller, so looking forward to finding out what's going on. Hello, caller. What's on your mind tonight? What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Mike. This is Dave calling from Houston, Texas.
Dave from Houston, Texas. How's everything in Texas tonight?
Good. Just really hot, really humid, hot, but yeah, otherwise pretty good.
Yeah, that's good.
You know, I've been kind of I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about, like, normally, I guess, you know, precious metals, because you know, I just noticed, as we've all seen, the prices have been dropping a little bit.
Yeah.
And it seems kind of strange, especially with the trade war going on. And I know you guys have talked about it a little bit, and your guests have kind of talked about it, and everybody's been talking about it from Kitco and everything. And, yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I guess it's kind of confusing, because it's just like this perpetual madness.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I'm fine with it, because I'm still trying to build up my own reserves.
Yeah.
So more time is good. But yeah, costs just seem going up. Oil's going up, but I see silver dropping, and it just seems very strange.
Yeah, and so that's the thing where, as I mentioned before in the past, years ago, when I was basically just new and didn't really realize the manipulation behind everything, I was concerned about the price, and I watched the price frequently. But over the last, 4 or 5 years, especially since 2016, when I began to really pay attention to some of the things that behind the scene that causes the manipulation, on how all of a sudden there'll be a sell-off of, say, 50,000 contracts or something like that out of the blue. Like who deliberately will sell that many futures contracts knowing that it's going to drop the price and be willing to lose money of that magnitude? So that lets me know that it's easy to short and just sell all those contracts off when you really don't have the physical metal in your possession, because you don't have nothing. It's nothing but paper anyway, so why not drop the price when it's only future obligations? So when I realized that all those bullion banks don't have physical silver, it kind of made me feel at ease, because it's all paper. It's a paper game, so I don't get caught up in the paper game, because that's what affects the numbers. And so I'll pull up this chart for you that I want to share, which could hopefully bring a little comfort to you. But this chart here is gold. And so this is just the historical aspect. So one thing I love to do is look at and keep in mind the long-term game, and see where we're at now, how over the last 40 years, especially since the 71 Nixon closing the gold window, how the price in paper terms have gone up tremendously. And so I'm sure you can agree that whatever you're holding in your physical possession will never return to zero in regards to paper, its relation to paper. So we know everything is crumbling around us, so it's only a matter of time before it has to go up. So that makes me feel a lot better, knowing that fiat currencies return to zero, but metals always retain some form of value, because it is money. So that's how I keep saying in this game, I think.
Right, and I actually I kind of like it suppressed right now, because to be honest, I wouldn't mind another 10 years to be able to stack a bit.
Yeah.
Whatever gives me some time, and I'm fine with that, 'cause I'm a pretty young guy. We're probably roughly the same age, so.
Yeah.
But especially with the ratio right now, I guess we've got, like, now 1 ounce of gold is worth 78 ounces of silver.
Yeah.
Are you leaning more towards silver, or do you feel more bullish on gold, or?
I am more.
Do you do any palladium?
I really haven't. I have none in my possession, just because they are precious, they are rare, they have their utility use cases in regards to different industries, so it's definitely worth having. I personally never got into it, just because over the long haul, I just fell in love with silver, man. And so I acquire both silver and gold, but I think for each person, it's basically what you can afford, knowing that silver is probably the most precious, because it will be utilized, and it's necessary for every single thing in our lives these days, whereas gold has more of a, you buy it and you store it and you stash for 100 years type of thing. So I personally I'm just fascinated with silver, because of the history behind it, and the fact that I believe the future is very promising in comparison to digits and paper. So I personally, whenever I get any extra change, I would go buy any type of fractional, a round, a minute coin, whatever, just because I feel comfortable saving in metals. Put it like that. Spend paper, save metals. That's my philosophy.
Yeah. And you know, speaking of that, when you're saying when you get a couple bucks together, I noticed because I sell stuff on eBay and whatnot, and just kind of hustle and where I can. And I noticed that with PayPal right now, they're doing where they do 24 months, 0%. And I'm like, man, now's maybe the time to stack a little bit while you get 24 months to pay it off at 0%.
Yeah. Isn't that alarming that I recognize more and more opportunities? Like I just earlier today, I booked some flights or whatever, and so had the option of booking my flights and paying later. And I'm thinking like, I mean, the airlines offered it to me. I'm thinking like, why would I want to? I'm getting on here to book a flight now. Why would I want to pay installments on a flight? That's just. But I'm sure people are taking advantage of that. So the fact that you can finance everything now is kind of alarming, because that's kind of what's happened with the whole subprime / Great Recession stuff. So that lets me know now that if you can finance your entire lifestyle from your bills to your toys to your livelihood. Man, think about when credit dries up and you can't do none of that, and the people who have based their lifestyle upon borrowing. It's going to be a shock like no other, I believe, my friend. And it's very sad.
It might be nice to pick up an ounce or so on credit with I'm just saying with PayPal credit or something, because you're essentially locking in the price.
Yeah.
And you just pay it off, and if something goes wrong, you can sell it and you still have the thing there. But yeah, definitely financing is I try and run away from it, because when you play with snakes, you know, you eventually get bit, and they're snakes.
Yeah.
But I just find it funny how you can borrow this money out of thin air, saying I can go get something physical.
Now watch this.
You know, and it's just hated right now.
Now watch this. I would imagine that if you utilize that and you buy small increments, that probably PayPal will catch on with where you're charging and what you're doing with that, and they're probably going to remove your credit line when it comes to using that particular coin or bullion dealer, just because they don't want, like with the whole credit card and the cryptocurrency. As of the beginning of this year, people were using their credit cards to buy cryptos, then selling the cryptos and paying off the debt and having a little bit of profit in there. And the big banks stopped that immediately within a couple months. And so I can imagine if people start buying metals using that PayPal offer, PayPal is going to shut that down, because more people will be catching on, and they are not they're not in the business to help you save and preserve your wealth. That's it. That's for sure.
Definitely not. Yeah.
Well, man, I appreciate you calling in, my friend. Thank you. Hello?
Yeah. Thanks. I've been listening a long time, and I was like, yeah, let me call in and put something in for once.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you calling in, my friend. Thanks for the support, and thanks for tuning in.
All right. Have a good night.
Yeah, you
Bye.
as well. Yeah, that's true, man. The banks are not in business to allow you to get over on them and to utilize their game against them. Like, it amazes me that the credit card interest, 20-something%, that's usury. That is straight up robbery. And so if you came across some type of method to use that credit to get ahead, if they found out and more people start using that same method, they're going to shut it down. And I'm thinking, like, you're just using the same game they use against us. But, I mean, the system was not designed for us to make money in it, but it's designed to drain us of our wealth, unfortunately. So recognizing that, people, always keep eyes open for opportunities to not game the system, but utilize the same system that's utilizing you. So just my 2 cents there. What else we got here? It says, people politely forget 2008. I hope people are prepared for what is coming. Great, very good point, Charles. And the biggest thing is, once again, like what's already in our midst, it's going to be something we're going to remember for quite a while. I think this time frame will definitely go down in the history books. Not only what I mentioned earlier about having 250-something trillion dollars in debt, that's never in recorded history. There's never been anything in the trillions the way it is now. So we are definitely, what I'm saying, I tell people this in a joking manner, but we are all a part of history. It's in the form of a monetary experiment, and so we got a front row seat to what's going on. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Wilmer from New Jersey.
Wilmer from New Jersey. How you doing, my friend? What's happening out in New Jersey?
Nothing, same old.
What's on your mind tonight?
I think it's crazy how all like the classic indicators, like they just ignore them now. Like, yield curve's inverted, boom, doesn't matter. They stop continuing showing their balance sheet. I just think it's nuts, you know?
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, and here's the thing with that, like the fact that they discontinued showing us something that is very important and that a lot of people, I mean, not a lot of people are even aware of the Federal Reserve balance sheet. Only people who tune into that stuff is people who are in the alternative media world that actually care about our monetary system. And so those are only people who probably pay attention to it and actually reported on it. So most of the mainstream, you know, or your average person, you ask them what's the Federal Reserve balance sheet, they'll be like, what's the Federal Reserve? And then they'll be like, what's the balance sheet? So most people don't even know. So they can do it, and it flies right under the radar because, you know, who's gonna pitch a fit? Nobody will hit the streets demanding, or nobody hit the streets in D.C. with signs saying, you know, we want justice. Report, you know, your balance sheet. Like, it should be an open book policy with the Fed, since they are in charge of our they're in charge of the world reserve currency and our national currency, you know, in one. And they're hiding what they're doing in regards to unwinding this quantitative easing that they concocted out of thin air. So it's unfortunate, man, but, you know, that's what the world we're living in.
Yeah, it's crazy. I honestly think they have like 2 to 3 rate hikes. That's it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Even and here's the thing: what really tricks me out is the fact that even I understand they want to try to get back to some type of normalcy with the interest rates, but yet the fact that they're raising interest rates will only make servicing the debt, the yield curve, it'll make borrowing costs go up, and it'll make the current interest payments now that much more expensive, to where we're going to have even a further deficit in our spending, just because we're going to have to borrow more money. So going up or down is going to be a problem. So I don't understand it, but I know it's just how things are. But it really confuses the hell out of me, is the fact that they feel pressed to try to get 3 or 4 more rate hikes in for the end of the year, knowing that 2019 is probably going to be the year of some type of meltdown, because emerging markets are crumbling. We already got all the governments around us moving away from the dollar. And then we have the crypto boom, of which everybody was becoming more familiar with. You have all that institutional money, I guess, positioning to come into crypto, which is basically saying they're dumping dollars directly. So it's nothing good happening right now in the conventional sense. So all the potential for gains and any type of profit is happening outside of the Federal Reserve note, which is problems for everybody's savings and the retirement stuff. So, yeah, I go on and on, man, but yeah.
Yeah, man, this entire economy is really a joke.
Yeah.
It really is. Like, it's a la-la land. It doesn't make no sense. Nothing that mattered before matters now.
Yeah.
It's like whatever the Fed says, that's it. It's crazy.
Yeah. As if they're operating in our best interest. So, but it is what it is, man. That is what it is. But bro,
right,
thanks for calling in, my friend. Appreciate you.
All right.
Yeah, man. Someone said get rid of the IRS while you're at it. Yeah, and to think about the fact that the Legal Tender Act, right leading up to the Civil War, is what got us into this whole game of using a paper currency, which was redeemable in metals, which then became a sole fiat currency. And along with that creation of paper came the institution known as the Internal Revenue Service, as well as all the institutions, CIA, which was meant to protect from counterfeiting and things like that with our currency. And so the bigger the government's grown, the more agencies, the less privacy, and just the more, the sadder things have become. It says, I hear in San Francisco is being hit by mudslides. Mike, are you covering this? I have not covered the mudslides at all. Not familiar with it, actually. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Mike. This is Mike. I'm from Oregon.
Hi there.
And we had 97 degrees here today, so it's still pretty warm.
97 degrees in Oregon. Thanks for calling, Mike. What's on your mind tonight?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you. I really appreciate your channel.
Thank you,
I've
sir.
been following you for about 2 years.
Thank you.
First time I ever called in. I'm in my 60s, and I'm really calling to encourage younger people. When it comes to precious metals, there's a lot of good advice and a lot of bad advice out there. And I want to say to those young people who maybe they're lucky enough to have a good job, but they can't afford a home, you know, or maybe they can barely afford one, but the bank isn't going to go with them. If you can just buy a little bit of silver with every paycheck, that silver, it's not an investment. That silver is insurance. That means if you converted that silver today into dollars, however many gallons of milk that can buy, it's going to be the same thing 10, 20 years from now.
Yeah.
There's a reason that the banks are accumulating silver. And unfortunately, the system we live in, it's just full of lies. And the banks, you know, you've heard of Glass-Steagall. I know you've talked about Glass-Steagall before.
Yep.
We don't need to be competing with the banks where we put our money. They should be in lending, and if they want all that special stuff, you know, they can stick to Wall Street, but there needs to be a separation, and that's what Glass-Steagall does. And that's why we need a new version of it to make it a level playing field. And I really, you know, I know there's a lot of people that are suspicious of Trump, and I know he comes across as flamboyant and an actor, but I really want to believe that he has our nation's best interest at heart. And I really want to believe that what he's doing now is preparing the groundwork for a financial reset. A lot of people are impatient. They're saying, why don't you do this now? You know, you've been in there so many months, you know, why isn't this done or that done? Well, I think there's a process for things, and before you make a reset, he's talking with all the nations, you know, in a bilateral sense, not a global sense. And I think he and a few others in the world are preparing the world for this reset, but they have to lay out the ground rules and establish who owes who, and that includes the central banks, before they can do this reset.
So watch this. Let me ask you a question. So let me ask you a question. So you mentioned about the banks there, and so if behind the scenes, like, because I know that I heard that there was some type of meeting behind with Putin and Trump behind closed doors, and so in those type of meetings behind closed doors, clearly the primary subject matter is being discussed. So in regards to the banks, do you think that those people will be willing to allow the banks to go under, or would they be a part of this whole reset as far as them allowing them to restructure themselves, because they are the backbone and foundation to our monetary system, because all the central banks are in place for them? So do you think the banking system will remain in this reset that you believe is coming?
I think they're going to fade away, and whether cryptocurrencies are a part of that or not, you know, I don't know. But they're corrupt as hell itself, and I resent them very much. I do business with them. I have a few rental houses. A few years ago, I had my own house for many years, and it was all I could do to make the payments on that house. And I lost all the equity in my homes when the crash came in 2008. I was very discouraged. I was a caregiver, and I was taking care of people, and I was providing houses for the state here for people who needed care, who were elderly. And it was very discouraging. But I put away silver because, for those younger people out there, if you're not able to get your house, you are able to get a little bit of silver, and that's a hard asset, just like the house. Homes will always be needed, whether they play it up or down. They're always going to be needed, and that's the benefit of these precious metals. Don't expect to, if you're looking for, you know, day trading profits, you don't want to deal with precious metals. And again, it's not an investment, and I'm not giving investment advice. This is my opinion. It's not an investment, it's insurance.
Yeah.
It just preserves your purchasing power so that you know what you saved today. It's going to be worth the same thing in terms of what it will buy tomorrow. And tomorrow could be years from now.
Right.
So
well, Mike,
you can have that satisfaction. Yeah.
Well, thank you for calling in. I appreciate you sharing that information. And so I want to make sure I get to some more callers as the clock winds down. But thank you for calling in. I appreciate that.
It's okay, Mike. Please address Glass-Steagall. New Zealand is trying to pass the bill.
Ooh.
And I talked to them and said, if ever there was a reason for government, this is it. They want to get their version of Glass-Steagall in there and break up the banks. Keep in mind, these banks that are giving us these headaches, they get the fines for manipulation, right?
Yeah.
It's a fact. They get the fines and they continue manipulating because they're the stockholders of the central banks.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that.
So
that needs to be discussed. And I appreciate your program. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you. Have a good evening.
Okay. You too. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing in regards to the whole the fines. The fact that, so many too big to fail banks have gotten in trouble for money laundering, all types of stuff, and they get slapped on the wrist, $200 million or whatever. But that's just simple. That's simply some proceeds that comes from just the interest they earn on deposited in the central bank. So that's play money, in my opinion. So those fines are a joke, but no one goes to jail. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
My name's Pat from Alabama.
Pat, how you
doing, Mike?
I'm doing good, my friend. Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind tonight?
Well, I just got a real short one for you. Have you ever thought that the only honest bet that you can get as far as stocks or anything else in this world is at the casino?
You say stocks?
They got people. Yeah, when you're talking about stocks, Forex, gold, silver, the only honest, unmanipulated bet you can get to the casino.
I never thought about that one in that regards there.
Yeah, they got people hired to make sure that the percentage of chance that you get at each table and whatnot is maintained. You don't have that anywhere else.
Really? Okay. that I didn't know.
Like I said, just thought I'd call in, give you a weird thought from the fugitive farm labor.
Well, I thank you. I appreciate that.
and you're doing a fabulous job when I hear people talking about Glass-Steagall.
Yeah.
Oh man, these are awake people.
Yeah.
You're grabbing them by the shoulders and waking them up, brother.
Yeah, my friend. It's not easy, but yet I figure if I stick with it one by one, I can get a new viewer that then will share the message and then begin taking action. Biggest thing is once you're aware that there's a problem, what are you going to do with that information? And that comes into the fact of just getting prepared and just becoming more proactive with your own financial stuff. Even though I can't give advice, I can give you information that can lead you towards everything else you need.
You're absolutely right.
So
I told you about a few weeks ago I got a little bit heavier, which I tickled to death about, and now I'm going to go do some serious investing at the casino.
Well, be safe. Don't put more on the table than you can afford to lose.
Well, it's play money anyway.
Yeah. Well, hey, it must be nice. Have fun with that.
All right. You do the same, brother, and you're doing good work.
Well, thank
good
you.
Work.
I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you.
All righty.
All right. Yep. Have a good one. Interesting. That is very interesting. Going to casino with some play money. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is Craig out of Beaumont.
Craig out of Beaumont. What's on your mind tonight, Craig? Thanks for calling in.
I was looking at the political events that happened today with our president.
Yep. What's your thoughts on that?
I also noticed that Bitcoin had shot up.
I didn't really check the cryptocurrency sector. What? So you think that's kind of connected, or what are your thoughts?
Well, my thing is that when you stand back and don't look at the forest in the White House, but you just look at the whole forest in general.
Yeah.
And then you start seeing money shift around unexpectedly for no reason. It kind of makes you what's going on. And then that's what brought me up to speed, where I think, yes, there is a relationship between Bitcoin making a move and what was happening at Capitol Hill.
Yeah. Right. So
my question,
go ahead.
My question is that with moves being taken like that, because it's supposed to be a decentralized currency. How does that foreshadow on American trade as far as things that can be tracked? I mean, is that showing that people are going to be moving their money towards war stocks, or is it going to reflect a certain amount of fear of the nation? I mean, how do you think the market's going to react to that?
So how the market's reacting in regards to the cryptocurrency or Bitcoin itself fluctuating and things happening around that? What you saying?
No. I was saying that cryptocurrency, the spike in my cryptocurrency made me start asking the question, what's going on? And then when I got home, I had got the news about what the president had done today at Capitol Hill. So what I'm saying is that a sign showing that certain tensions or certain fear in the markets, or what do you think?
Yeah, I would probably say, as far as the meeting between Trump and Putin, because I'm not aware of certain industries or sectors that probably move the markets or whatnot, apart from you mentioning Bitcoin. But in regards to the war side of things, when Putin and Trump were meeting, it was more of a happy-go-lucky smile type of thing from what I saw video-wise and picture-wise, to where I think if it was more of a confrontational type of meeting, and it was like, look like there's gonna be some bad blood between those two, then perhaps the war drums could be beaten. But it looks like Trump wants to basically try to work something out. It'd be in our best interest to try to make peace with Putin than to try to go to war or escalate things beyond what we should. So I think that the whole shift in the Bitcoin situation is the fact that, something, because I'm looking at something now, and it says here that BlackRock, it said, is looking to get in crypto, and then below that says the 5% gain because of what BlackRock reportedly their way in the crypto venture. So that might be just some good news, where BlackRock is a major company. So with news like that, that's good enough to make the markets jump in regards to crypto and everything related to crypto, whether it be the computer industry and the tech industry. So those type of things could be related there, but I'm not sure about all the other market activity that you're referring to. So I hope that Trump's meeting resulted in something peaceful as opposed to something confrontational, because we don't need no more war. Even though I know that I know a lot of people in politics would prefer to have an enemy, because we always need some type of enemy to point the blame towards. But if Putin and Trump are buddying up, that's going to piss a lot of people in D.C. off, because who else can we blame for our problems is underway? So, yeah. but time will tell, as always.
Yeah, and I mean, I have the same opinion on that. But the thing I'm looking at is that fear factor. Because it's like every time we have a crisis, whether it be hurricanes in the past, the bubble busted in 2008, or they had the Y2K, there was always that fear factor, and it affected the markets.
Yeah. Definitely. So, yeah, definitely. There's so many events right now that could be a trigger or a cause to the markets moving. It's too much to follow. That's basically what it boils down to. Other than the mainstream story, who actually knows what makes what move? Other than the fact that we know that there's a lot of manipulation in all these markets. So there aren't too many true free market activity going on, because everything is manipulated in some institution or entity's favor, and not in yours and I. So, and I and yours, or yours and I, whatever I go. So, yeah, but no, thank you for calling in, my friend. I appreciate you. Got another call calling in.
All right, no problem.
Appreciate you. Thank you. Looks like I lost a call. Whoever it was, feel free to call back. Yeah, that's the thing, man. There's so much activity out here that it's hard to pinpoint what makes what jump. But one thing is worth definitely mentioning, and I want to touch on this because I definitely think this is something that we can find interesting, and it's the fact that Mr. Jeff Bezos is worth $150 billion. 150 billion Federal Reserve notes. And so it talks about how he's the richest man what it says here. Stock. Bezos, who personally owns the Washington Post and space exploration company Blue Origin. This guy owns everything. So basically, he's been labeled as the wealthiest individual or man. Says for perspective, Bezos is worth more than Microsoft, Bill Gates, and Larry Page combined at $150 billion. And so when I saw this, what I first thought about was the idea that isn't it nice that the mainstream media, who is owned by a small group of individuals or families or whatever, how it's mainstream news to report the fact that Jeff Bezos is the wealthiest individual, but it doesn't talk about that long oligarchy type money, you know, with the families and the institutions behind the Federal Reserve note in and of itself. Like this very symbol here reflects or represents what we call a dollar, but this symbol and the instrument labeled to this is actually owned by an institution called the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve Bank is owned by a group of banks and the board members or whatnot that own that type of stuff. So technically speaking, those families and those banking institutions, the shareholders or whatnot, like the Warburgs, the Rothschilds, those institutions and families are the wealthiest. So they make that 150 billion pale in comparison to what they have in actual gold and silver and land and all of that stuff. So 150 in comparison to who owns the Federal Reserve note and its whole, it pales in comparison. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling in from?
Yeah, this is Dave. I'm calling out of San Jose, California.
Dave from San Jose, California. How you doing, my friend? What's on your mind tonight?
Good. Hey, I just heard that other caller about Alabama, and he's absolutely correct. The best bet you can make today is in a casino. If you take that money to Wall Street, it's all manipulated. The precious money market's manipulated. Everything's manipulated. Even the bond market's manipulated. Everything, but the casino's regulated. They're regulated by the state. They have to have so much payouts compared to how much is being played. So they have a regulation that not even we don't know nothing about what's happening with the precious metals. They keep finding HSBC. They found out they were manipulating. They find them, like you said. No one goes to jail. They just give them the fine. They put it in as cost of average for business, doing business these days. But the reason why I really called you, Mike, because I wanted to get this point across to all your listeners and everybody, and for all those out there, they can use this as much as they want. We need to stop thinking of inflation as prices going up, because when you think prices are going up, you think it's out of your control. You think it's somewhere out of your control why these prices are going up. We need to start thinking of it as money is going down. You start telling people that their money's going down, they get upset. They get serious about it. You start. They wanted answers. They wanted why it's going down. What's happening? This, I believe, is a way we can get the people where they can understand. Because the first thing they say is, "Oh, inflation, price is going up." No, gasoline is still 92 octane. It's still 89 octane. What's the difference? The price. It was 150 a few years ago. Now it's $3. What happened? Your money went down. The money's going down. See, if we can start hitting people on that angle, then it opens their eyes. Because when you start talking about money, you're talking about what's in their pocket. When you're talking about prices that seem so far out of people's control, they feel like, oh, I got no control over that. But the simple fact is the prices, that bread is still bread. It's still flour and water and yeast. It's the money in your pocket that's going into the garbage. So that's the point I really wanted to get across. Thank you, Mike. I like the show. I enjoy watching it. And a lot of intelligent people calling in, and we all got the feedback. And I like your guests when you have your guests on during the week. That's enlightening. That's just helping everybody out. But the main thing we need to hit over people's heads is that the money in your pocket is going to zero. When they start with this trade war, the trade, like you said before, the trade is just an illusion. Just like a Houdini trick to get you to look in another direction while they're robbing us, while they on a daily basis.
I do agree, my friend. So thanks for sharing that. So yeah, definitely. So what I've been doing is trying to connect with more people via social media. So I, would friend somebody, and then when they reply back or request to be my friend, I'll send some graphs that I've made up over the years and reflect a reflection of what's actually happening. And I even mentioned the fact that I don't even call it money anymore. I call it currency, because I've adapted the mindset that metals is money and everything else is a claim to it. ideally currency, fiat currency. So I try to be even more precise than that by distinguishing between money and currency. And then that's another way of like, what do you mean money? I thought it's all the same. No, it's not the same. And this is why, you know. So that's another way to get them. So I love graphs, and so I appreciate you sharing that, because, you know, if we can keep that in mind, then if you can keep that same mindset, it'll help you be able to weather the storm when you see the digital price of things fluctuate in regards to sound money, because you'll be like, I don't care what the price is today, because at the end of the day, it's not about, having enough. It's about, how heavy you are in comparison to what your digital accounts may say. So another thing I always say is, make sure you get your weight up along the way. So most people are trying to lose weight. I'm trying to gain weight in a sense. So, but my friend, thank you for calling. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, enjoy your night. Yeah, man, I love that saying. Someone actually in the last live stream, they hashtagged it, get your weight up. So I thought about using that for some stuff. So I think it was a young lady. So I appreciate you doing that, because that gave me an idea. Yeah, man. So what the call? I'm gonna probably reshare this, but yeah. So in the midst of talking, for whatever reason, the volume dropped, and I couldn't increase it on my side. So not sure what that was, but he shared some good points there, basically on how to tell people that inflation is not as a result of prices going up. Technically, it's a reflection of the fact that your currency's value is depreciating to the point where it just takes that much more paper to acquire the same amount of goods, which never changed. So that's kind of what he was getting at. Yeah, man, you got to get heavy, get your weight up. So anyway, so guys, we're drawing towards the end. Hello, Mike. Can silver protect a pension, like allocate 10 ounces every day, every payday? Thanks. William, very good question, my friend. So the question is, can silver protect a pension? And so, William, not able to give financial advice, but just my monetary opinion. Knowing that, and so here's the thing, when I talk about, I cover pension, retirement concept, just because I think that subject matter is it's going to be a very touchy subject in 5, 10, 15 years from now, especially as the baby boomers look to retire, and those that aren't receiving anything now and looking to actually withdraw in the future, they're going to be very upset with the amount of cutback slashing of the payouts that will need to take place, because the pension system is already underfunded. Then you have all the conventional 401ks, all those mainstream things now that people are supposed to contribute to. Those are all, for the most part, tied into the stock market. So that's dependent upon the stock market continue to go up. So all those things, in my sense, are future claims on wealth that's not currently present. So they're banking on the idea that the younger generation will continue to deposit into the stock market, buy bonds, and buy all this stuff that keeps us propped up. But my generation and younger they're not able to save for retirement. So there's going to be a lack of contribution to those type of products pretty soon. And then, barring this next market correction, those things might be wiped away, or the value of the stock market might drop 50-60%. So basically, always gauge. You have a way to gauge what could happen based upon history. And if you look back at every recession and the amount of correction that occurred with the stock market and every other financial asset, including your house, I'm a firm believer that the idea of your net worth being kind of linked to your real estate, your house, and your portfolio in the conventional financial sense, all those things are tied into, are subject to market conditions. So as long as the market's going up, as long as we're in economic expansion, you have equity in your house. And as a caller mentioned, when a recession happened, he lost all the equity in his housing. So keep all that in mind. So when you talk about the word pension or just retirement in general, my stance is that whatever the principle is now and what you're expecting it to be may not be there, in my opinion. So technically speaking, anything tangible in the form of monetary metals will do very well, because you actually have a tangible asset in your possession that, in my opinion, based upon history, has always appreciated in paper price, at least, to where a lot of those the wealth that's lost in a paper asset is absorbed into tangible assets. And I believe metals and whatnot will be the leading candidate for this liquidity crunch, or this liquidity that's about to be unleashed come the next recession, official recession, and the Q4 or whatever they call it, that will be unleashed. It's going to go somewhere. It's going to go into tangible assets. So that's all my opinion, but definitely I'm leery of the whole concept of retirement and those retirement vehicles, because they're all bank they are bank instruments designed to keep our money in the system with the expectation of a payout in the future, which the future is not guaranteed. And on top of that, at the end of the day, if you look at the history behind the word retirement, it's only 130 years old, the word itself, and it started off as like, you know, being offered by companies in the form of a pension. After the whole industrial revolution kind of died, 70s give or take, then the whole idea of 401k and employer contributions came into play. Now we have now it's just all employers, so there are no more pensions for the younger generation. So it's good to say that after this whole 401k, 403b, all that stuff goes away, then they're gonna come up with some type of new scheme in some way, which will probably be a government sponsored, you know, invest in us, we'll keep protection for life type of concept, which seems to be the case. Latigo said, house is not an asset, it's a liability unless it's fully paid for. Very true. I do agree with that 100%. I do agree with that 100%. That's one of the whole Robert Kiyosaki aspects, that unless your house is putting cash flow or generating cash flow, it's a liability. It's still a liability when it's paid for, you still pay taxes. Very true. So the biggest thing is, if the cash you're generating from the house after all the expenditures, whether it be taxes or if it's paid off, creates cash flow, then in that sense, as long as the cash is coming in, it can be considered an asset. But yet, in some type of market correction, your tenant might not be able to pay that rent, and then you're gonna be stuck with paying the taxes and mortgage or whatever else you have on the house. So those are all things to consider. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but right now when the market is good, everybody making good cash. So enjoy it while it lasts, because I believe it's not going to happen forever. But that's just my 2 cents. But as always, I appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, we're going to be back tomorrow night. And definitely, I have some things here. Where we at? Over here. But if you're new to the channel, make sure you scroll down to the bottom in the description here. I got a couple things for you guys to tune in with. Connect with me on social media. I share posts throughout the day. And definitely, I enjoy going back and forth with a few people who want to chit-chat. And then I have some free books and whatnot, all linked below. Definitely things worth checking out. Giving you a little bit of a historical aspect on metals and whatnot, and some of my expectations for the future, and how this next recession could be our last before the restructuring fully occurs, because it will be led by our eastern neighbors and will benefit us as well, but in a very different way than what we're experiencing now, because I don't believe we'll be the leader of the free world anymore. And that, with losing that privilege comes a lot of comforts and luxuries that will go along with that, because credit won't be so plentiful. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents. Appreciate you guys chiming in. Everybody enjoy your evening, and I will see you guys tomorrow night, 9:30. Invite a friend, check back in with us, and if any stories come across your airways throughout the day, feel free to send me a direct message. I can probably do a story on it, or if not, we can talk about it tomorrow night. So other than that, peace, enjoy yourself, and stay safe.